that when we talk about essential workers, we're actually talking about our students and their families. And so a lot of the essential workers that were still working were my students' families. And this posed a difficulty for them when they would try to advocate for themselves too, like when they would ask for help. And so I took it upon myself, and I communicated that, as well as many other teachers, ENL teachers in my school. We've noticed that this growing trend amongst our community. And so the Woodside Community School being the Woodside Community School, we started to study the fact that, okay, when are these parents available? When do we do these outreach? When do we do tech support? What would be the most effective times? So because we knew our families and our students and their difficulties, we kind of took them on headstrong. And in conversation with my principal, I brought it up to her attention that maybe we need to reach out to families at an evening time rather than waiting to meet with them earlier in the morning. So we started to see that we were getting, connected very quickly with our families, and we were, the help was on the way. And so because we have these relationships, we are able to look at these difficulties and think about ways to problem solve. So I think as much as there were the difficulties, this was really an opportunity for our whole community to come together and listen to one another and really make sure we always say we have relationship, we're great at relationships, but this really put us to the test to make sure that we had to bend a little bit to make sure to reach out to our families. And this might, at the beginning when all of this was happening, this is when we were making these decisions. We didn't wait until June to turn on our computers and connect with our students and help them. We, from the get-go, we had surveys going. We really were trying to find out who had devices, who didn't have devices. So in order for us to really begin this work, it always starts with addressing, acknowledging the difficulties, because if we see the difficulties but we walk past them, it's only going to cause us even more difficulties throughout the long run. So I know I kind of extended the question a little bit, but this is where it started.
Great, thank you. You want to share your PowerPoint?
Sure. So
thank you for sharing your insight and your experience of turning what is supposed to be positive, negative into positive, and then fortifying and strengthening the school and community connections. That's really, really wonderful story. Okay, so you want to share your PowerPoint?
Sure.
Okay.
Just to go further into it, when we start advocating and we really look at the problems, the first thing we thought about, like going forward for this upcoming school year, was what will our in-person and in-school, like what will remote learning look like, and what will blended learning in person look like. So once we had an idea of that, it kind of led us to think about, okay, what were the challenges we were going through in June? So we took a lot of what we learned, and that helped us to define, when we see these challenges, technology support, language support, lack of tools and resources, lacking supportive community like that of our classroom, social emotional needs, all of these different areas, we kind of mapped it out.
Nali, for
Yeah.
example, I'm sorry, I didn't see your screen though. Okay.
I am sharing the screen. Are you able to
Right.
see?
Maybe I should stop sharing first.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, now I see your screen. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mhm.
So all of the challenges that we had, we kind of put them on the table and we took them on headstrong. And so we came together and we decided that we needed to take matters in our own hands, because not only did we have internal problems, we know that externally the Department of Education is facing budget cuts. This year, our union, typically we get $250 in Teachers' Choice funding. This year, we're not receiving $250 in Teachers' Choice funding. So it's like one bad news after another. And so we decided, okay, so if instruction is fully remote, even if students are blended or if they're remote, what is it that we need to equip our students with? So these were some kind of questions we were asking ourselves. We told ourselves that we needed to keep things constant. Something had to stay constant. We told ourselves that we needed to keep the learning expectations high in order to help our students gear their social emotional needs into a positive and rewarding work environment. So like if we are dwelling in all of our negativity, we won't be able to move past as a school, neither will our students. So it really starts with us. And then lastly, we told ourselves that we need to lift the remote learning experience. Like the heart of all of this right now is we want to lift our remote learning experience for our students. And so therefore, we want to provide materials that they were already used to. For example, paper, pen, using manipulatives. We wanted to make sure how could we get these things to our students' hands despite all of these struggles.
Yes, I just want to add to your story. I heard some of the ENL teachers talk about that they have to dig into their own pocket and to pay for the mailing fee, so that they can send the material to the at-risk student who don't have internet access. So this kind of story kind of heartbreaking, to hear,
Yeah.
and then that's what made me think that we should all come together and think outside the box, think about a create solution to support our student population.
Exactly, absolutely. When we have problems, it's actually an opportunity for us to look for solutions, creative solutions, out of the box solutions. So we don't have to, we have to keep our heart still in the game. We're still, in this fight to make sure all of our students receive what they need. And so it's really important to know what is it that you want, because we can expand and be like, we want this, 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 and this, but we really need to take small steps in order to achieve this. And one small thing can lead to another greater positive thing. Um, your next question, which is
Tell
about the
us a little bit about your project and how does it started? How did you develop this project?
Mhm.
And how was it informed by the students' needs, and how would that help address student needs?
Sure.
Yes.
So our goal was to make sure that our students had materials that they needed in order to learn remotely this fall. And so we had to break it down into two categories: items that were necessary, like definitely required for all students. And then we also thought about supplemental items that aren't necessary but would support or deepen our student learning. For example, every single day you might not need digital, brain pop or foundations or some kind of digital platform, but this would enhance the learning you're already doing in an engaging way. So for my project, I decided to break them up into three different projects. I had one project that would support teachers with Teachers Pay Teachers gift cards so that we can purchase resources that were more interactive. Because remember, we don't have our classrooms with us, so we don't even know what fall is going to look like. So just in case, we wanted to make sure we can purchase things that would be more meaningful to our students, created by teachers. The second one was social emotional needs. And so we wanted to make sure our students had timers and a stress ball so that they can manage their time and have some structure while also express their social emotional needs with some kind of sensory item. And then lastly, we thought about, okay, so now if we are fully remote, what could we use to supplement learning? So we thought about vocabulary as well as brain pop. And we did it as a third grade team. We didn't do it just as my project. We did it as a whole team to
Right.
support all 75 students.
Right.
So this was the first project that I was talking about, the Engaging Digital Video Library. And here you can see 22 donors were able to participate, and we did it as a school. So having it as a school is a really nice game plan, because then you can send it out to your families and your families can send it out to other people they know. So you're increasing your crowd source instead of it just being you single-handedly doing it. So we have three third grade teachers. So all three of us shared the same projects. And so, but in our wording, we made sure to include our third grade students. And this would serve 75 students, this project.
Mm. Wow.
Another project I'm currently working on is now to be able to get reflectors or little osmos, but I found a cheaper version of it from doing some research. And that same thing is like a little mini projector, and each one costs about $16. So we thought if we were to get one for each student, this would allow for our students to kind of really show us, if they're writing something in live, they can share it on the screen live with paper and pen, because a lot of students we know are not comfortable typing. And so we're thinking of many different ways to bring these problems out so we can get more people to be involved in the decisions we're making, the resources we're providing for our students. Remember, it takes a village, right?
Right. This is wonderful and a great educational opportunity for other teachers too who are not so informed about technology.
Right. And, as a first year teacher, especially if this is your first year during COVID, I can understand how overwhelming this must be for them. And so I would recommend using Donors Choose and seeing if there's ways that they can, pair up with members of their school so that they can get more of a pool, a wide group of people to participate. Um, if anybody wants to, there is a special going on right now. And so if anyone would like to use this link that I'm showing on the screen, share.donorschoose.org/37HQZB, from August 23rd to 29th, anyone who submits a project and uses this code would support me in getting $25 while also supporting yourself by getting an automatic $50. And this is coming straight from Donors Choose, the organization.
Mhm. Yes. So before you reach out to the donors on that website, have you reached out to other organizations for support to fund your project? And if so, what would be the result?
So Donors Choose is really nice because there are many different organizations that are involved with Donors Choose. So we, like I mentioned before, we work together as a whole school. So you can see here, it's the entire PS361, from my principal all the way to my music teacher to my, technology teacher. So we all got together and hopped onto taking advantage of this website. And Donors Choose, they have some specials like the code I just showed you. And within that special, for example, they have other organizations that are looking to give away money for specific kinds of projects. So in for my project, I was being supported by the Bill Gates, Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, and they were matching donors. So if somebody gave $20, they would probably double that amount. So there's always some kind of a code, some kind of a special going on where there's a donor who's looking to give money. And so the Gates Foundation was actually supporting during the week that my project was up. So many of my colleagues, including myself, were able to take advantage of that. So that kind of motivates us as well to be like, okay, we have to keep, email anyone So I even reached out to you, so because I'm thinking, okay, for my students, who do I know that may know even more people? So this is a really great resource because even if a person is not able to give, they can at least hit the share button and that can at least get you someone else to donate. So it's really nice that whether someone shares or whether someone actually is able to give to your project, there's always some way that someone can become of a resource to what you're trying to do. So you're not really alone in this whole process. You do have more people who are willing to give, especially now. There are people ready to get involved.
Yeah. So this part is really, really interesting to me. So it's the the role the corporate company uh, can play in funding the public school. And then we, as a teacher, we used to be worried about the commercial interest invasion into our school. But at this time, we need to tap into the enormous resources of the private sectors. And I find that I noticed that the Bill Gates company, they matching the donors. It's like if you put that, it's 1 to 2. If you put in $1, if you can get people to donate $1, they would chip in $2.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of matching strategy.
Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit like when did they come into the pictures? I mean, do you know from the very beginning they are going to be involved?
No, actually, you don't know who's going to be involved with your project, but sometimes when you look on the website, Donors Choose, they will say like, okay, if you are, trying to launch a STEM program for females, there's probably a special code for that. And then they'll tell you you need, specific criteria that they're looking to fund women, they're looking to fund women using technology. So each organization is also looking to use their money on specific kind of projects. And so you don't, like, I didn't know that Bill and Melinda Gates would be involved in our particular projects. We also had Kleenex, the Kleenex company as well, who also donated. And so we don't know who's doing it. And then there's also anonymous donors who don't want to mention their names, but they want to be able to be involved. So Donors Choose is a really nice place to look for funding. And it's also one of the safest because as public employees, we want to be careful with how we are taking money, because typically we don't take money, right? As teachers, that's not our job. And we want to refrain from any kind of anything to do with money, because it could become an issue at some point. But the fact that this is public and you're not dealing with any of the money and it's just processed through the website and whoever wants to from themselves donate, I think that's the really nice part, the safety that it kind of brings you. And they ship everything, they handle everything. And then in return, you give them like thank you notes, and you follow up with the thank you package. Which is basically thank yous and you using their product that they supported you with, evidence of it. So the accountability, the security, is really nice because with other organizations, sometimes it becomes a question, okay, you have received $1,000, what did you do with it, right? So Donors Choose in that respect, it kind of gives you that safety net as a teacher, as a public educator, to keep yourself safe as well. Yeah.
So they are responsible for all the transparency part, right? Because they are the one really handle the money. So, so you don't have to worry about being implicated in any kind of, undesirable stories. Right. That's great that they create this kind of social enterprise that bring both private and public sector together to support the needed to support the community really can need help at this time.
Yes.
So and I also saw that you you are very good at saying thank you. I saw you are very busy with interacting with the parents, with donors.
Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit about your experience of doing that? Yeah.
Sure. So with Donors Choose, some of the donors who do donate on the website, you can see their names. Sorry, and some of the donors you can't see it, but it's often really, often it's a good, I think it's a good way to, if you want to be funded in the future for projects, it's really nice to acknowledge who the person was. Yes. So seeing a public statement with your name next to it saying Miss Cheng also donated $50 to your project, it makes the other person feel like, yes, I did something. And it also makes you, show your gratitude right away. So I think being efficient with that is important because it shows them um, that you respect, or you have that partnership. Because the thing is, when you launch another one, those same people will get some kind of an email or some kind of a message that, okay, Miss Nali has another project going on. Would you like to donate? So if you're acknowledging that person will also feel more inclined, like, oh yes, I always fund this teacher, so she always thanks me, and it's just a very polite way of being respectful publicly.
Yeah, I find this is so important because now there are a lot of cause campaign out there, charity campaign out there. And since now people are mostly stay home, they are not, uh, they still, of course, they still have a lot of expenses, but their expenses may not as much as before, so some of them would like to give back to the society, but they also want to have some kind of reinforcement, knowing that their money is well spent. So
Yes,
by doing that, you kind of give that kind of reinforcement. Yeah.
definitely. I just want to also mention, like, there are other methods for you to also tap into getting fundraisers. So, we have our school budget, which we know at this time it's pretty much, you know, not something we're able to touch as much as before. But
Mm,
then we have the alternative methods and then school supply list. As a school, we also had to look at our school supply list and think about our community and our families and think about what do they really need and what did they not need, especially during now, remotely. Do they need notebooks? Do they need folders? What is it that they need? So we kind of also look through all of that. And then for alternative funding, I've mostly talked about Donors Choose. Other places you might look at is Amazon Wishlist or GoFundMe. Again, with these two or the other sources, I feel less comfortable, as I would feel more comfortable with Donors Choose rather than the other ones, because again, with that loosely handling money or you handling the money yourself, I'm usually a little careful with that. So if you do decide to do a Donors Choose, the first thing you would have to do is set up a teacher's account. Then you would have to describe your students. Then you go to shop for your supplies. They give you a listing of many different websites that are popular to use. For instance, Lakeshore, Amazon Business. So there's a couple of different websites that they provide for you. So you can choose for whatever materials you need for the project that you're trying to fund. And then you get to write, and then you have to write a project description. And this is really important because this is what's public and this is what people are reading in order to decide if they're going to support you or fund you.
do they verify your school credential?
Yes, they do. They will email my principal. They will email other teachers who are linked to it. And the more verification, the more you are legit, the more people are likely to fund you.
Right.
They get more security, feeling like, okay, this is going to a good place.
Mhm.
Because people really, even now, people really are conscious of their money,
Right.
especially during this pandemic. Like, where's my money going? If I am helping, I want to make sure I'm helping something
Right.
that's legitimate. Yes.
Right. Right.
So then you will see a section that says about my students, and you want to choose details that connect to your project themes. So I teach approximately 450 music students in grade pre-K to 4, where you talk about grade level. You indicate who are your students as learners. For example, I'm just quoting other people's projects in my school.
Yeah.
My students love to explore and play our classroom instruments, and I'm constantly inspired by students' enthusiasm, curiosity, and musical creativity. What you're trying to do, this is your chance to kind of, just like how you would write a resume or a cover letter and you give someone a snapshot of who you are, this is kind of the place where you give a snapshot of your classroom. My students love working in pairs and small groups. They count beats for each other, they help friends. So you're kind of creating this picture of what your classroom is like.
Yes.
What makes our community special? Our students and families come from many different countries, speak a wide variety of languages at home. And so this also, if I am an ENL teacher and I see something like this, I'm more likely to support because this is something that I'm interested in and I care about. So keywords are important. in order to attract the people who care about the same issues or the same population that you're working with.
Okay. Great.
And
Thank
then
you.
there's, yes, and then there's a space for you to describe your project. What are you requesting? How will students use the materials you have requested? How will these materials benefit your students? So all of this was also like when we gathered together as teachers this summer for our school. Um, one of our music teacher, Miss Schwartz, she kind of organized us together, and she was like, okay, the same way I'm talking about this, she kind of was also reminding us, like, we want to make sure that we express clearly what we're getting, and we are very transparent in our message, so that it helps the person who's trying to support you understand what they're really funding. So here, the first installment will provide keyboards for fourth and fifth grade students. Students will work towards creating shared recordings. So what will the students do with it? And then how will these materials benefit your students? Having a sustainable shared collection of student instruments would allow for students to explore and practice at home all year long. So, you can see how
Yeah.
clear and
Yeah.
how very simply you have to kind of be able to communicate.
Yeah. So they require a lot of some information. However, it's all about ensuring accountability. But when
Yeah.
you work with a team, it's actually it's an easy process,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Definitely.
Um, yeah, I forgot what question I'm going to ask. Yes.
I'm just gonna continue the process and then we'll jump to the next
Yes.
question.
Mhm.
So you want to keep your project within the 500 to 999, range. Why? Because remember, there's shipping and processing fees as well.
Okay.
So when you are shopping, you just want to be a little mindful of that. So in my project, it was a total of 1100,
Mhm.
but my materials were within this range, so then the other extra was for the processing fees.
Okay. So do you know they reject any proposal, or they basically is any like a feedback process? Suppose they think your description is not really specific and they want more information from you. So instead of reject your proposal, do they give you feedback? Like.
Yes, I do. Yes. So before your project goes live, before they approve your project, there's someone on the other end from the Donors Truth organization who
Yeah.
read through everything, who check the validity, who check the price, who checks to make sure everything is seamless. And so they also have a process. They guide you through it. They'll tell you, please, this part, will you fix this part? This part doesn't go along with here. So they'll give you the feedback in a timely manner in
Mhm.
order for you to understand if you can go forward with it or not.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yes. Um,
Okay. So what are the challenges you find in doing this fundraising? And how did you
mhm.
do to overcome these challenges? Well, let me speak for myself. I'm kind of a shy person to to ask for money. Even if I'm asking for money for some public project. So I don't know if you feel the same way, and if so, how do you overcome this kind of self scruple and also other people's resistance as well?
Sure. I'm also actually, I would say in some areas of the way I handle myself, in some instances, I'm also, I could be shy. Also asking for money is not something I'm comfortable doing culturally as well.
Yes.
So what I will do is I share it on my social media. I ask my friends to share it as well. But I also write a little message. So for instance, I reached out to my professors in college and whoever I know that I have, you know, I feel a little comfortable asking. So, you might want to ask yourself, who do you feel comfortable asking? But I do have like a professional message where I'm saying, if you can kindly pass this on, and if you feel comfortable also supporting us. So I think the way I'm wording it is also important, because you wouldn't want to write something, hey, yeah, if you can give money here, but more so in a very professional and organized way, so that the other person on the other end doesn't feel uncomfortable, like, oh, I'm forced to give money here or whatever. It's more so, okay, well, since this is anonymous, if I can do it, I will. If I can't, you know what, at least I can hit the share button and share with other people. So that's the nice thing about it, especially doing it through technology. Like right now, remotely, could you imagine if we had to do this, going to each person house by house, right? We have, you know, we have technology in our fingertips that we're able to do it in this way, and we don't even have to deal with any money and anything. So I think it's really something to, like something that works in our favor, you know. Other challenges I would say is, you know, since I'm not someone who's used to going and asking people for money, I had to kind of, having that team help me ease this, kind of thought process, seeing that my other colleagues were also posting their projects and we were all doing it together. It really felt very empowering. You didn't feel alone in the process. Other times in my life, like I've tried to do a project and it wasn't successful because I didn't have, I didn't feel like, do I really need this? Do I really want this? How am I going to ask for this? I had a lot of questions. So I've had Donors Truth projects that I've made and they just sat there because I wasn't really being active about it. And so if I compare myself with that process by myself versus this process, and how quickly this got funded, I think what I've learned is that, if you really care about your students and you really want to get some support, you're going to have to put in a little bit of legwork in order to get what you want for your students. And earlier I showed you all of the different concerns we had. The heart of everything, which was, how are we going to meet all of these needs? And so if I'm looking at these needs, it all weighs out much more. So it kind of motivates you to like, okay, I'm going to give Donors Truth a try. And so you don't lose anything. You can only gain something from making this effort. So yeah.
Because it's not, it's fundraising, but it's also more as a advocating,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we still have 5 minutes left. This is a very important question for me. So how does this experience impact on you professionally and personally? I know you have been talking about how this empower you and to help you build the community within the school and also outside the school. Can you speak a little bit more?
Sure. Professionally, I want my students to be on the top, right? So I'm very personally motivated to see my students who are my children. I want to be the person that says, no, you're going to get 100 and we're going to make sure you get 100. Doesn't matter how we're going to do it, we're going to get there. So that is something that I believe that all of my students, especially in-house students, we should challenge them as much as possible. Because if we don't have those high expectations and we don't put it forth for them and we don't teach them to think big and we don't do that ourselves, then it will affect them as well, especially as us being the main person who spends 8 hours a day with them. So personally, that's how it affects me. And then it extends professionally because in order for myself to, accomplish my personal goal of making sure all my students are 100 and to keep my expectations high, I have to be willing to advocate. I have to be willing to look for solutions. And I think this whole experience showed me that, it does take a village. You cannot do it by yourself. And, keep your expectations high. Don't lower them no matter what, no matter even if COVID is here. So what? We still have to, life is still going on and we need to make sure we give 110% to our students, even under these circumstances, because especially now they're looking forward to us. So teaching is actually personal to me. I know my teachers did it for me. If they didn't do it today, I would not be the one who's saying like, no, we should do more for our ENL students. So it comes from them because they did so much for me, and I see where I've ended up. You know, I'm an ENL student myself. So because they've done for me, I have reached this place, and I hope to reach further and go up the ladder somehow, someday. Um, and I am, you know, constantly looking for opportunities so that I can extend myself. So it, you know, all of these experiences, it's not just for my students to grow, it's also for myself to grow and for myself to see how far I can go. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your this amazing and empowering story. So we thank you for everything you did for students and for the TESOL community. Okay, so that will be the ending of our webinar today. And I hope in the future we can further utilize your experiences. I know you are a tech teacher as well, and you know a lot of you know, using tech tool to enhance the learning. So
Sure.
we might get in touch with you for this purpose. Okay,
Sure.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.